What's going on, people? I hope you're having a good day. I'm QBN, and if you aren't excited for the upcoming NBA season, which starts this Tuesday, October 27th, you may need to check your pulse. This video will be covering opening night dynamic ratings player targets for NBA 2K16 that I have selected, and I will be explaining why I believe each target is worthy of your consideration. Don't forget to follow me here on YouTube as well as on Twitch by the same handle, OfficialQBN. Thank you for your support. So the first team that I've selected is the Philadelphia 76ers. I've picked 3 players on this team that I believe you should definitely consider targeting. Nick Stauskas, Jahlil Okafor, and Nerlens Noel. The reason why I have Stauskas selected is because he is a bronze shooting guard. He is very low rated currently in NBA 2K16, but potential-wise, he has a very high ceiling. He wasn't fully utilized in Sacramento. He is a solid shooter. He is an elite shooter. In college, he was very good coming out of college. And again, I think that on Philadelphia, he's going to have a chance being the best shooter on the team to get a lot of passes from Okafor when he's double-teamed in the post. It's going to free up Stauskas for wide-open three-pointers, and I think Noel is going to play perfectly alongside Okafor. Okafor, in my opinion, the reason why I believe he's a solid pick, he is currently a 77 overall in NBA 2K16, and his passing is on an elite level. It is on an elite level for a big man. Out of the post, when he gets double teamed, he knows how to find the open man. He takes the proper angle on the pass, and I think that pairing him up with Noel, who can shoot the mid-range and is athletic, is a perfect setup. It's a perfect scheme to be running offensively with those 2 guys in the front court. And again, I think that those are the 3 best players for Philadelphia to roll with. Now, on to the Bucks. For the 4 on the Bucks, I'm going Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jabari Parker, John Henson, and Rashad Vaughn. The reason why I've chosen these 4 players for the Milwaukee Bucks is because I believe that Parker is a good pickup right now before he gets healthy. He's going to be coming back in November, and I think that the best option right now will be to have him sitting in your back pocket for when he comes out in November before the price starts to skyrocket. Henson is a great rebounder, underrated in 2K rebounding-wise. I think his scoring is also going to go up a little bit more as well, so I think his card has plenty of room to grow. Antetokounmpo is going to be getting a lot of minutes. He's going to be playing in a lot of different positions, 1 through 5 according to Jason Kidd, and I think that's going to allow him to produce substantially more than he did last year. Also, with Parker being out until November, that's also going to assist him with stats. The reason why I say Rashad Vaughn is a good pickup is because he's been producing in the preseason solidly. Also, as I said before, Antetokounmpo is going to be playing 1 through 5, which means that he's going to slot at the 4 most likely with Monroe at the 5, which would leave Middleton at the 3 spot, and then they need a 2 guard to play, so it would be Mayo, and then the point guard would be MCW. Now, the reason why I say Vaughn is because he's going to be getting the backup 2 guard duties on that team, because Middleton is essentially the 2 guard. But I think he's going to move to that small forward slot until Parker gets back. So that's going to free up Vaughn for some minutes. And his card right now currently in 2K is very, very, very crappy. It is substandard, it's subpar, whatever you want to call it. And I think it has tons of room to grow. So these are the 4 guys for Milwaukee. The other guys I haven't really given any highlight to because they don't necessarily have stats that I think can go up substantially. And here you see the Chicago Bulls. I have a picture-in-picture on the left side. You see Doug McDermott in the preseason shooting the ball. In my opinion, this guy's a top 5 pure shooter in the NBA. He has a fast, fluid release. He reminds me a lot of Carmelo Anthony. And I know a lot of people are going to give me flack for that, but as a Carmelo fan, I can definitely co-sign him being similar to Carmelo. He has a very quick, fluid, high release. He's very similar build to Carmelo, 6'8", 230 to 240. He can pump fake, take somebody off the dribble, shoot the floater, or drive to the rack. He can post up. He has essentially the same skill set as Carmelo Anthony. He can take you in so many different ways offensively that it's very difficult to guard him in any particular manner. He's going to get to the free throw line also. Currently, McDermott is rated, I believe, as 67 overall. He's a bronze card. It's actually horrendous in my opinion. The only reason why his card is so low is because he didn't get any minutes under Tom Thibodeau, because he's an offensive player, and his defense is, I guess questionable. So, that's why he hasn't been getting the burn he deserves in the NBA. But scoring-wise, he's an elite talent. And there's no question that he should have been getting burn. He should have been getting playing time some time ago. But, again, if you have a defensive-minded coach, you may not get burned if you can't play defense, but you're an elite offensive player. It just depends on the coaching staff and the team. Obviously, the other three guys here you see, Noah's most likely going to be coming off the bench from what I've heard. So that means Mirotic is probably going to start, or Gibson's going to start. So that's going to free up Portis to get some bench minutes. So I think those four guys you see, McDermott, Mirotic, Portis, and Gibson, are the best choices. Noah's card's already fairly solid right now, so I can't say it's going to go up substantially, so I can't recommend him. So for the Cleveland Cavaliers, we have Mo Williams, we have J.R. Smith. These two cards I think have plenty of room to grow as well. These are role player cards, obviously, and they're not star players. But the reason why I recommend them is because Amon Shumpert's going to be out for 4 months, 3 to 4 months with an injury. That frees up J.R. Smith to be the starting shooting guard. He's going to get the majority of the minutes there. Irving is still going to be out for some time with his injury, so that's going to free up Mo Williams to get some solid production there. And I think, again, with the situation being as it is, I'm not exactly sure I would recommend Shumpert, which is why I don't have him highlighted right now, because, again, he's going to be out for 3 to 4 months, and his card is already fairly solid as is. I can't recommend anyone else on the team because, again, keep in mind, Cleveland made it to the finals, so their cards are fairly inflated. The player cards are fairly inflated because these are essentially playoff ratings. So I can't necessarily recommend anyone outside of Mo Williams and J.R. Smith, but there is someone that I'm going to show you guys later when I get to the free agent section that I recommend that is also in the Cavs, but you don't see him here on the roster, so we'll get to him in a little bit. But again, the other players I can't really recommend. Varejão's card's already solid as is, so I can't recommend his card. And that's it for the Cavs. We're going to move on to the Celtics here. For the Celtics, I'm going to recommend Terry Rozier, R.J. Hunter, David Lee, and Jay Crowder. The reason why I absolutely recommend R.J. Hunter and Terry Rozier is because they're both bronze cards. They're both severely underrated for their real-life counterpart. And I think those cards are going to definitely go up as the season progresses, especially the Rozier card. And Lee and Crowder, I believe that Lee and Crowder are going to go up. Maybe not as much as Rozier and Hunter, but they're definitely going to go up. Lee's going to be running a lot of the half-court offense for Boston for the Celtics, and it's going to free up a lot of passing lanes for them because of Lee's ability to score down low and his ability to pass down low. He can score with either hand on the low block, so that presents a problem for the defense. He is undersized, so depending on the matchup, it may be a little bit more difficult for him to produce. But the nice thing about Boston's roster is that they have two people that can play make out of the perimeter and the post. Again, Lee is the post playmaker, and Evan Turner is easily the perimeter playmaker. The reason why I didn't recommend anyone else in the Celtics, the reason why I didn't highlight anyone else in the Celtics, is because I think their cards have already pretty much gotten to where they can be on the average. Amir Johnson's a solid rebounder. His card already reflects that. Most of these guys, their card already reflects their real life play, except for the ones that I've highlighted. So I think those cards are going to be solid pickups for dynamics. For the Los Angeles Clippers, this one was a little bit of a difficult decision for me in some ways because, again, this is another team that made the playoffs, but they played horrible when they got to their last series in the playoffs. They had a solid lead. Everyone knows the story. They blew the great lead that they had in that series. And, again, I can't really recommend any of the players, the higher tier players, because their cards are already fairly high because, again, they made it to the playoffs. They're inflated card ratings. So across the board, what I don't recommend doing is taking players from playoff teams and buying the dynamic to start out because the card is only going to drop from where it's at. So there's no reason to buy the overpriced cards right now for playoff star players. So again, wait for those cards to come down, buy them when they're low, and then wait till they get back high. So Lance Stephenson's a recommendation for the Clippers, as you saw. And that's because his card can't get any worse. That's basically it. It's that simple. Again, for this team here, the Memphis Grizzlies, Brandon Wright, again, the only person I could recommend. Same situation here. This is another playoff team. These cards are highly inflated. The regular season performances aren't necessarily going to consistently push above what the cards are at right now. The reason why I say Brandon Wright is because I think his rebounding and his defense are a little bit lower than what they should be for his real-life counterpart. So I think the 2K card is going to go up as he plays. Vince Carter, I can't recommend. He hasn't been shooting that well in the preseason. Lee's card's right about where it should be. A lot of these guys, the reason why I can't recommend their card is because I don't see room for growth. So I'm only targeting cards that I see room for substantial growth. So for the Hawks here, Kent Bazemore is going to be getting the lion's share of minutes, the majority of minutes, in place of the departed DeMarre Carroll, who went to the Toronto Raptors. So I think Bazemore is going to be a solid pickup for the Hawks. He's rated fairly low in the game. I think he has plenty of room to grow. Mike Scott, again, is another player that I think has a lot of room to grow as a role player. I think he's currently a 72 overall, if I'm not mistaken, in 2K. His scoring ability in 2K is not what it should be compared to his real-life counterpart, so I think that's going to go up. He's had several good games in the preseason, scoring-wise. And I know the preseason, a lot of people don't think the preseason means anything, but there are indicators in the preseason. You can watch how a player plays in the flow of the offense to see what type of shots they would be getting in the regular season, and you can see what kind of confidence level they have. If they're just going through the motions or if they're legitimately testing the opposing defense. And for the playoff teams, you're actually seeing people contend and try in the preseason. It's not like it's just everyone going through the motions on the playoff teams. The playoff teams are actually trying because people are fighting for rotation spots. And Walter Tavares, the reason why I have him highlighted as well is because his card is fairly low as is, and I think it could go up scoring-wise as the season progresses. So, this is my team here, the Miami Heat. I'm a Miami Heat fan, and if there's one thing that I know, it's the Miami Heat, hands down. I have several players selected from the Miami Heat. Josh Richardson is the main one. For me, his card is so far and away not even close to his real-life counterpart. Defensively, his card doesn't reflect what he can do in real life, and offensively doesn't reflect what he can do in real life. The card is just very bad, and if you manage to get the dynamic Josh Richardson card, it's a steal because his card is going to go up offensively and defensively, and I think it's going to go up considerably defensively. One thing that I want to also show you guys here, this is going to be a clip here. I'm going to put it here on the left side, picture-in-picture. You see a nice little give and go here between Tyler Johnson and Josh McRoberts. He just skies over the top of Drew Gooden and two-hand smashes it on him. And the reason why this is relevant is because McRoberts is severely underrated in 2K in terms of passing ability. I don't know how much these guys get a chance to watch NBA basketball, but 2K doesn't really do as good a job as they should do on the ratings across the board. I don't know if it's because they're understaffed or they only have one guy watching all the different games or what the deal is, but McRoberts is an elite passer at the power forward position, and his ratings don't reflect his ability. So again, his card's going to go up. I believe Johnson's card's going to go up. I don't believe Johnson's mid-range is as high as it should be. I don't believe Johnson's defense is as high as it should be. I just don't see those cards matching the real-life counterparts. Chalmers is another one. He's gotten back in shape. He's lost a lot of weight. I think his card's going to go up defensively. All these cards that you see highlighted here are basically guaranteed improvement cards. These are cards that I think basically have no chance of a decline or a drop. I think these cards are only going up. Gerald Green is self-explanatory. Miami needed scoring. They got it with him. He gets easily 20 plus off the bench. His card's going to go up, and Hassan Whiteside speaks for himself. We're looking here at the Hornets now. I have 4 players highlighted for the Charlotte Hornets. We have Frank the Tank Kaminsky. He can shoot out from the perimeter. He can score down low. His card, I think, is going to go up because I don't think it necessarily reflects his all-around scoring ability. The Brian Roberts card, the reason why I have that one selected is because his card isn't as high as I think it should be shooting-wise. He can really put points on the board when he gets minutes. So I would definitely recommend picking up his card because there are going to be nights, probably on back-to-backs and stuff like that, where his card is going to go up because he's going to get more minutes. So production-wise, he can produce if he's given the time. And I think his card's got room to grow. Jeremy Lin has just been absolutely balling in the preseason. I think the team that he's on right now, on the Hornets, on Charlotte, I think the system is a lot better for him. It allows him to run the offense a little bit more, allows him to create more, and I think it fits his game a lot more than the system in Los Angeles did, so I think he's going to be a solid pickup. And last but not least, Nicholas Batum is in a contract year, so it goes without saying that his card's going to be a solid pickup. Utah Jazz, Rodney Hood, Trey Burke, and Rudy Gobert. Trey Burke had a subpar season last year, and I'm pretty certain he had some injury troubles as well. But the way he's been playing in the preseason, and the fact that rookies usually bounce back, or second-year players usually bounce back after gaining some experience and have a good productive season, the fact that it usually happens is a good indicator for Burke coming up this season and producing fairly solid numbers. So again, Burke's a solid pickup for Utah. Hood is a solid pickup for Utah. And Gobert is again a solid pickup for Utah based off of how he played last season and the way that I've been watching these games, the way that I've been seeing him play. He seems to be giving indications that he's going to be playing at that same level he did last season, if not at a higher level. So his card can also go up. Those are the 3 I'd recommend for them. Some of the players in these rosters I want to point out to you guys. The reason why I waited a little bit of time to put out this dynamic ratings video is because some of these rosters have players that have been waived. I had to wait for waivers to clear before I could put out these recommendations. So that's why it took me a little bit of time. So for the Sacramento Kings, I'm not really seeing a playoff team with Sacramento. I know a lot of people have a lot of hype in their head going on right now that Sacramento is going to make the playoffs. Oh my God, they got Rudy Gay, Cousins, and Rondo, Willie Cauley-Stein. I mean, I understand they have a decent team, but they're not going to make the playoffs in the West. Their team's not good enough. I think they're going to have some flashes, especially with Cauley-Stein and Gay. Gay's been shooting lights out in the preseason. And I think with the system that's in place right now with Carl, I think he can score efficiently, which is kind of a strange thing to say for Rudy Gay because everyone knows Rudy Gay as being an inefficient scorer for the most part. So I think that that's going to be important moving forward as the regular season comes up. Having someone that you pick up, having a small forward, especially a dynamic small forward, not necessarily a superstar player, but a star player that has room for growth. I think his three-pointer is going to go up. I think it's currently at an 80. I think it has room to go up to maybe an 86 because of the way he's been shooting. The Willie Cauley-Stein card is severely underrated in my opinion, especially defensively. Athleticism-wise, it's also underrated, so that card has a tremendous amount of room to grow. For the New York Knicks, we have Kyle O'Quinn, Derrick Williams, Clay Anthony Early, and Kristaps Porzingis. Clay Anthony Early in the preseason has been showing flashes of being able to score on the outside, on the perimeter, also being able to get inside. So I think his card currently, as it stands, I believe, is a 70 three-pointer. So his three-pointer is nowhere near as high as it should be, based off of how he's been performing in the preseason. And his card overall is also fairly low, so I think that could go up substantially as the season progresses. Derrick Williams is another card that I think has a tremendous amount of room to grow substantially. He's put up several 20-plus point games in the preseason, and I think he wants to be able to get touches on a team that needs offense right now with the Knicks. O'Quinn, I think, has room to grow defensively and rebounding-wise. I'm not necessarily sure about offense, but defensively and rebounding-wise, he has plenty of room to grow, and he definitely has the potential to rise. So again, these are cards that I think have potential to rise, not necessarily are going to drop too much, I don't believe. These are cards that are absolutely going to head up. Porzingis, again, he's a player coming into the league that's only going to go up, only going to grow. He has a silky smooth jump shot. He has size. He has fundamentals. So I think his card's only going to go up. Lakers, this kind of goes without saying. Everybody knows Kobe Bryant's going to be one of the players to get for the Lakers because he's currently an 85 overall, which is, right about where he should be based off of his health and age and performance last season, but I don't think he's going to stay at an 85 overall for long. Julius Randle, obviously, because he was injured and didn't get a chance to play, is going to be a solid pickup. Roy Hibbert is going to be a solid pickup because he slimmed down this season, so he's going to be good. Jordan Clarkson, and, of course, this.
Add that in with the temperature.
Larry Nance!
You talking about looking like your father. You talk about looking like your father. Oh, my goodness.
I'll tell you what, that's making everybody sweat. Talk about humidity, upshot can't block. Wow, Larry Nance, this place is still buzzing. The Laker bench is still up. I know it's a preseason game, but you gotta get excited over that.
So yeah, basically to preface or to have that preface my statement. Yeah, Larry Nance. Wow. I mean, I thought Ezeli was a great shot blocker, but he just posted the crap out of him. Nance is currently at a 65 dunk, if I'm not mistaken, at a 60-something vert. And, of course, that's going to change based off of what you saw in that video there. So that goes without any further saying. So, the Orlando Magic, boy, they have a couple guys I think you should definitely target. Devin Marble, his three-pointer is way too low. His shooting is way too low. His is going to go up. Andrew Nicholson, his low post scoring is way too low. That's got to go up. His rebounding is also too low. Shabazz Napier, I think his shooting is going to go up. Hazonia, I think, is going to fluctuate as the season progresses, but he's going to have some nights where he's really, really hot and can't miss. And I think his card can fluctuate and get really high, but also can drop back down to average. So that's a good pickup as well. Aaron Gordon has a lot of room to grow as well. That's a solid card to pick up. So those guys right there. The reason why I don't recommend the other cards is because those cards are already about what I think they're going to be for the season. Some of those cards are, again, pretty much at their peak. I don't think Peyton's going to get that much better from what he is right now. His jump shot mechanics haven't improved substantially. Tobias Harris is already solid, and he just got a contract, so I don't necessarily think he's going to be playing at full ability because he's not in a contract year, obviously. We're here on the Dallas Mavericks now. I'm a little sleepy. I apologize. I've been working at this all day. We have Dwight Powell, who has been a breath of fresh air in the preseason. Performance-wise, he's been getting rebounds. He's been getting points. He's going to be solid for the Mavericks. They're going to need it. The Mavericks are, in my opinion, not a playoff team. And I'm going to have another video covering playoff teams. But the Mavericks, no way they're making the playoffs. But John Jenkins is another good pickup, and Raymond Felton, because Raymond Felton's card can't get any worse than it is right now. Keep in mind, Powell and Jenkins are both bronze players, so they have tons of room to grow because their overalls are low. And they've been producing in the preseason. All right, so for the Brooklyn Nets, Thaddeus Young, without question, since Garnett's departed, and there's less offense from Deron Williams, obviously, because he's also gone, so he's a good pickup there. Thaddeus Young is. Thomas Robinson, Shane Larkin, I think, is going to be a great pickup, and Wayne Ellington, I think, as well. These are the four best ones for the Nets. I think these are the ones that have the most potential to rise up moving forward. The other guys there are, still young players. They're not going to produce this year. Again, the Brooklyn Nets are a rebuilding team, so you can't necessarily expect these guys to produce right now. These are more along the lines of players that you'd pick up mid-season. So we're going to move on here to the Denver Nuggets. See the guys I have selected for the Denver Nuggets. We've got Jokic, we've got Laverne, we've got Gary Harris, we've got Will Barton, and Emmanuel Mudiay. Emmanuel Mudiay is a potential Rookie of the Year candidate. Will Barton is a player that can get out on the break and score. He's a solid pickup. Laverne is probably the best player on this roster to pick up for a dynamic. Jokic has been playing extremely well in the preseason and has a lot of potential to rise. And Harris has been shooting the three ball extremely well in the preseason. So all these guys here that you see that I've highlighted, these are guys that I think have maximum potential, the most room to go up in terms of the cards in this team. And if you see any other names there that aren't selected, it's because I think that their ratings are right about where they should be, or they don't have a tremendous amount more room to grow. Indiana Pacers, Glenn Robinson III, Ian Mahinmi, who is going to be the starting center for the Indiana Pacers, and Miles Turner. Miles Turner, in my opinion, has an underrated post fadeaway, which isn't reflected in NBA 2K16. But he has a developing post game. Again, his fadeaway is cash money. Mahinmi is a solid rebounder and defender. Can also score a little bit, and he's bulked up to take on the starting role for the Pacers. So I think that could also impact his ability to bang down low and post up people and get rebounds and fight. So again, he's going to be a solid pickup. Mahinmi most likely going to be producing solid minutes. And for the Pelicans, this is the first player that I've picked that's a superstar player that I think has plenty of room to grow. Anthony Davis, everyone's expecting him to have an MVP year. Incorporating a three-point shot into this season is obviously going to raise his card substantially. Quincy Pondexter, I think, is going to be a good pickup as well because Tyreek Evans is going to be out for some time due to injury. And Dante Cunningham, his card is fairly low, and I've been noticing he's been shooting a lot of threes in the preseason. So this card is also going to be a solid pickup, in my opinion, because of the situation in New Orleans. I also would give some consideration to Drew Holiday because Norris Cole is going to be out, so I'm not exactly sure how that situation is going to play out. Holiday might play more minutes with Cole being out with the high ankle sprain. So the Detroit Pistons, goes without saying, Stanley Johnson is the number one for the Pistons. Andre Drummond, because I think he has more room to grow offensively. Marcus Morris, because I think he's going to produce in Detroit. He's not going to feel like he's in a box in Phoenix where they didn't really have a legitimate shot. And Detroit doesn't really have a legitimate shot, but they have more of a shot at doing damage in the playoffs than Phoenix did in the West. And Reggie Bullock, I think, is also a solid pickup. He's a bronze player, fairly low rating, but I think he could go up as well with his shooting. Now, for Toronto, you only see one player selected here. The reason for this is because most of the guys on the roster here already have ratings that, in my opinion, match what they're going to be producing in the regular season. But for me, Lowry has, I believe, a 77 three-pointer right now. And the way that he shoots when he's fully healthy, he's definitely well above a 77. I would say Lowry is somewhere around the neighborhood of maybe an 86, maybe an 87. three-pointer. When he's fully healthy, he can shoot lights out from the three-point line, and he's been doing so in the preseason, so I think that is definitely going to reflect on his card as we move forward. I think Ross has potential to grow as well, but he hasn't really been playing that well in the preseason, so I can't recommend him right out the gates for opening day. Corey Brewer, Terrence Jones, KJ McDaniels, and Clint Capella for the Houston Rockets are the four that I absolutely recommend for them. I'm not exactly sure how the situation with the Rockets is going to play out in regards to the point guard position with Beverly and Lawson going on there. I'm not exactly sure who's going to be getting the bulk of the minutes. Lawson obviously is the better player, but at first there might be a little bit of chemistry issues. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to play out, but we'll see. But those four right there I recommend. Brewer's shot is a little bit better than what 2K has him listed at currently, so that's going to go up. And McDaniels is more athletic than 2K has him. Kyle Anderson, Ray McCollum, Jonathan Simmons, and Boban Marjanovic are the best for the Spurs. The reason why I don't have Jimmer selected is because obviously the Spurs waived him. Jonathan Simmons is going to be the bench shooting guard for the Spurs. He's going to be able to produce a lot. There's going to be nights where Parker's sitting out resting, which means that Patrick Mills is going to be in the starting lineup, which essentially means that Ray McCollum is going to be the bench point guard. That enables McCollum to go up in terms of rating, so his dynamics are going to move up. And again, Kyle Anderson is going to be getting small forward minutes, so he's going to rise as well. For the Suns, again, this isn't really a contending team. Phoenix isn't a contending team, so don't look for much from the other players in the team in terms of production. But these four guys here, they're all young players except for Teletovic. I think those guys definitely have room to grow. And the reason why I have Teletovic selected there is because Teletovic is going to be in a system where he's able to basically shoot the ball as much as he feels like doing in Phoenix. And when he was in the EuroLeague, he was playing in a system that allowed him to get up shots and get plenty of opportunities to score. And it's going to fit well in Phoenix with his style of play. And also his three-point shot is currently a 78, so that's got to go up. For Oklahoma City, Inez Cantor, the way he's been playing in the preseason, indicates to me that he's ready to take on the low post scoring duties for Oklahoma City. And with Durant coming back, that's going to help floor spacing. And I don't think there's any question whatsoever. He's also been efficient. I want to point that out. Cantor's also been efficient. He's had very high field goal percentages in the preseason so far. And I think that's going to translate to the regular season because of the shot selection that he's been choosing. He's been very selective about his shots, making sure that he's taking quality shots and not forcing the issue. McGarry is another player that I think is severely underrated passing-wise, a lot like McRoberts, as I mentioned earlier. He has a ton of room to grow. Dion Waiters as well. Shooting-wise, I think he has a lot of room to grow because he's been very efficient in the preseason shooting. And also Adams is a good pickup for OKC. The Timberwolves. Andrew Wiggins, Karl Anthony Towns, Shabazz Muhammad, Gorgie Jang, and Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine is going to be the starting shooting guard for the start of the season, according to Sam Mitchell, who is the interim head coach for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I would definitely recommend picking up LaVine. Gorgie Jang is trying to shoot the three ball from the corner now, so that's going to raise his three-pointer. He's been shooting well in the preseason. That's going to help. Shabazz Muhammad's been playing well. He's improved. Karl Anthony Towns is going to be getting the center position minutes starting over Pekovic. So Pekovic's production is going to go down. Towns is going to go up. Wiggins, this is his second year now. He's going to have an opportunity to improve as well. There's a lot of good things going on there in Minnesota. And I also, you will see in one of my upcoming videos, I have Minnesota pegged as a playoff team in the West. I know they're young, but I think they can do it. For the Trailblazers, I got Mason Plumlee, C.J. McCollum, Maurice Harkless, and Pat Connaughton. C.J. McCollum is going to be getting the shot opportunities that Wesley Matthews had when he was in Portland. And since they're a rebuilding team, I don't think they're necessarily going to be focusing on trying to make the playoffs because I don't think they have a playoff caliber team. Plumlee has plenty of room to grow. Pat Connaughton is going to be getting the backup shooting guard minutes, I believe. Outside of Gerald Henderson, of course. But Harkless has been able to shoot the three so far in the preseason fairly well, so I think his card's also going to go up. Those guys are solid. For the Warriors, I wanted to say Kevon Looney, but he's out with an injury, so that's obviously out of the question. So the two I've selected for the Warriors are Jason Thompson and Harrison Barnes. Keep in mind, the Warriors are the championship team. They just won the championship. All the players' ratings are inflated. Right now would be the worst time possible to buy a Warriors dynamic rating player because all of them are overpriced. For the Washington Wizards, I've selected 5 people. Allen Anderson has been shooting lights out in the preseason. Chris Humphries is now shooting the 3-ball. I think he's currently listed at 25 3-pointer in 2K. That is going to go up immensely. Chris Humphries' card is probably going to go up probably 5 to 6 overall points, I would say, without question. Otto Porter's card's going to go up. Gary Neal's card's going to go up. And Marcin Gortat, his low post scoring currently is not anywhere what it should be for 2K. So his card is also going to improve. So again, those are the teams as currently presented in the dynamic ratings collection. And I'm going to move on here to the free agent list. And I'm going to highlight to you guys the players that are on teams that I didn't cover on the rosters because they're separate. Russell Butler's on the Spurs. He's going to be solid as a small forward. He's going to be shooting the 3-ball well. He's going to be splitting minutes with Kyle Anderson. I think he's going to be a solid pickup. Tayshaun Prince for the Wolves, I think is going to be a solid pickup as well because of the lack of small forwards on Minnesota. Other than Shabazz Muhammad, of course, Wiggins is playing at the 2-guard spot. So I think Tayshaun's going to fit in well, especially with Minnesota being a playoff team, as I already said they will be. And JaVale McGee is going to play for the Mavs, so he's going to go up in terms of rating because he's going to be a starting center on the Mavs. And I seriously doubt that Carlisle is going to let him be a complete moron like he usually is. I think he's going to try and restrain him somewhat. And there are veterans around there to keep his head right. Ryan Hollins, do with him as you will. I think he has potential to go up slightly, not too much. Only reason why I have him highlighted is because he's on the Grizz and he's on a team. You saw Terry there was also highlighted. I think he has potential to go up as well on the Rockets. I don't think his 3-ball is as high as it should be, and he plays fairly well in the regular season. So definitely recommend his card. You see right there, Kendall Marshall for the Sixers. I didn't mention him before, again, because he's in the free agent list. So I think he's going to be solid for the Sixers. There's not really a tremendous floor general on the Sixers now. If you think about it, once they got rid of MCW, they didn't have anyone. There's just really not anybody on the Sixers right now. They have Roten, but I don't think he's anywhere as good at setting up the offense as Kendall Marshall is. So I think Marshall would be a solid pickup. He's got room to grow. Luke and Bob Mute, or Luke Richard and Bob Mute, he's going to be a reserve in the Clippers, but I think he has room to grow as well. Dante Jones in the Nets is another player that I think has got room to grow. His card is currently really, really, really garbage in 2K, so I would definitely recommend picking it up. It's got room to grow on the Nets, especially with the Nets not being a playoff team. I think he's going to get minutes. I know that sounds a little weird because usually non-playoff teams, they play their young players more, but there's not really too many players at that position that are going to be taking playing time away from him. And Eric Moreland, this one to me is very interesting because he started out with Sacramento and then he went kind of full circle and wound back up with Sacramento, but he can produce. Eric Moreland's kind of like a sleeper dynamic player for me because not too many people noticed him going back to Sacramento. And he's a young player, and he's still got plenty of potential to grow. And as far as Sacramento goes, they don't really have a tremendous amount of solid big men outside of Cauley-Stein and Cousins. And the number one free agent pick on the free agent list for me is Jared Cunningham. This goes full circle back to what I mentioned earlier with Cleveland, with JR taking Shumpert's starting minutes. I think Cunningham is going to be taking the bench shooting guard minutes because of how he's been producing in the preseason. He had a 31-point game against Philadelphia. I know it's Philadelphia, but he also had several other good games in the preseason, and I think he's going to get better as the season moves on. He's certainly better than his card currently lists him as, so that should play well as the season progresses. So again, thank you guys. I appreciate you all taking the time to watch this. I'm going to have more videos as the season progresses, more dynamic ratings, and I'm also going to have tutorials for you guys so that you can improve your 2K play.